tornado just ripped through part of Kentucky and killed some people last night, I think.
Oh my gosh. The only thing that woke me up was the warning. My phone was screaming like about a tornado. I was like, I went back to sleep. Slept through the whole thing.
And let it take me.
I was that kid that would move everything in my bedroom down to the basement when there was a tornado warning on TV.
We went outside.
Yeah, same.
Barefoot. Yeah.
Same. Such a privileged life.
Mama, it sounds like a train.
Why are all those trees bending over like that?
It was a thrill of a lifetime.
No.
We are Squawking Dead. Podcast pulverizing programs beyond the Walking Dead universe, and sometimes in the Walking Dead universe.
Sometimes we bring you news.
Sometimes we make you laugh.
Sometimes we make you laugh.
We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing programs beyond the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, most times we go deep. I'm your host, David Cameo, and I'm joined by...
Mom09 me.
Lazy Gardener.
And Bridget. You can find me at youtube.com/@punkybrewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER.
And today we're here to talk to you about The Walking Dead Dead City's third episode of its second season titled, Why Did the Mainlanders Cross the River? First of all, I'm glad to be here with all of you, and then also all of you out there.
Thank you for being here, all of you.
And second of all, we have a bit of housekeeping to do. Obviously, we have some merch in the merch store, and I've also considered an idea in my head of how I want the season 2 merch to go. I don't know how it's going to go, if it's going to go at all, if I can make time for it at all. But before I get into that, look at the merch on the screen. It's obviously on the screen. And to get to that merch, you can get to the links in the description of the YouTube video or head to squawkingdead.com, choose the main menu on the top left and choose buy merch. Second thing is we did an interview last Friday. Today is May 18th. Well, it's the collective we. It's we as an institution.
You did it.
I did it. Well, I did it. We had an in-person interview. I had interviewed Logan Schmucker, who plays Victor on The Walking Dead Dead City, who came into our lives in the first episode and exited in the second episode. I thought it was a great idea to have him over because he was in New York City at the time, and he was more than accommodating. It was pretty great of him to do, and we had a really lovely chat. It's available now. Meantime, if you want the uncut version, which you may want, because there are things, even in the unedited, that I had to take out, which gives you an indicator of how good the unedited interview recording is. You can get to that via ko-fi.com/squawkingdead or patreon.com/squawkingdead, and I hope you enjoy it. It's pretty great. I had tried to remember for the last few episodes that Adam Sushitsky, who did the director of photography from Fear the Walking Dead season 4 onward, is now doing director of photography for The Walking Dead Dead City. So if you're wondering about the color palette and the differences between them and the significance of the color palette in the cinematography, that's Adam Sushitsky. He is often paired with Michael Satrazemis, who is now executive producer of The Walking Dead Dead City, and he remembered his friends. So I think it's great. And one more little tidbit about that. He happens to be the director of photography for also one of our shows that we like to watch, which is Yellowstone, by the way, in case you didn't know.
I didn't know that.
A level deeper, I may have mentioned in the past that I had cried watching the Hulu original movie 11/22/63. This is about the JFK assassination, but like in like a sci-fi way. Somebody goes back in time to save JFK, or like the events that transpired in that time period.
It was a Stephen King book.
It was a Stephen King book.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Starring
I was gonna say, wasn't that a series?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it was a series, not a movie.
It was.
It's starring James Franco.
James Franco,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. And he did the director of photography there too. So I thought that was kind of cool too. A little bit of extra information you didn't need to know or want to know, but I wanted to know, and I want to share it with all of you.
We're better for knowing.
All right, second thing on my list, because I did organize it in priority, is the thing that we meant to talk about for a couple episodes now, and it is TWD University.
This was a conversation before our last live episode of The Last of Us, and we were going to talk about it then, but like, just stop. You know what I mean? Like, just stop it.
Yeah.
Stop talking about Walking Dead during The Last of Us.
Let's silo that information.
I just wish that I could have a college degree that's meaningless. Oh wait, I already do. And so
even more meaningless.
even less meaningful than the one I have. I'm sorry, the 3 I have. I looked into, could you take a course on The Walking Dead? Because I know I would ace a college course on The Walking Dead.
Hypothetically
Easy.
speaking.
Anyway, there was one. It was free. And it was called Society Science Survival Lessons from AMC's The Walking Dead. It was available at University of California, Irvine, and it was free. The release date was from October 14th, 2013 to December 20th, 2013. It was an 8-week free, massive open online course on zombie survival created by AMC, Instructure, and the University of California, Irvine. The little description from the website: from understanding social identities to modeling the spread of disease, this 8-week course will span key science and survival themes using AMC's The Walking Dead as its basis. 4 faculty members from the University of California, Irvine will take you on an interdisciplinary academic journey deep into the world of AMC's The Walking Dead. The course was taught by esteemed members of UC Irvine facility on Instructure's platform. That was their tie-in for it, that AMC licensed their rights to for the content. Access to cast members for interviews and advice on weekly themes about TV series, which is pretty cool. Course covers everything from the interdisciplinary factors behind the spread of infectious disease to post-apocalyptic nutrition. Focused on social sciences, physics, astronomy, public health, and mathematics, each professor combines their knowledge with what would really happen in an apocalyptic setting. This class tackled real-life scenarios that included lessons on Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Ooh, I love that. Maslow.
Social order and structure, and public health and the CDC, and many other topics. Each class took place the Monday after a Walking Dead episode would air and included discussion of that episode as well. The course attracted more than 65,000 users from around the world. Yeah, this is season 3 era, so it's we're not at our peak yet, but we're well on our way. So the staff from UC Irvine that was included was Susanna Bick, who is in public health, Joanne Christofferson from social sciences, Michael Denon from physics, and Sarah Eichhorn from mathematics. The program included describing how infectious diseases like a zombie epidemic spread and are managed, apply various models of society and Maslow. I feel like it's Maslow, but maybe I'm wrong. Maslow's hierarchy of needs to existing and emerging societies as a means for understanding human behavior, analyze existing social roles and stereotypes as they exist today and in an emerging world, debate the role of public health organizations in society, because you no longer have them, describe how mathematical equations for population dynamics can be used to study disease spread and interventions, and apply concepts of energy and momentum appropriately when analyzing collisions and other activities that either inflict or prevent damage. Summarize multiple methods for managing stress in disaster situations.
Who has time for that last one?
I mean, we don't even do it well now.
Make time.
And you saw what COVID turned out for us. But anyway, that was a fun thing that was available and is no longer available. But how cool!
What innovative promotion? If you think about
That's
it.
what I
Mixed
said.
media.
This is why, because we were talking about wild marketing.
Okay. That's what it was. Next bit of housekeeping was a Collider article that came across my desk from Deanna Marie on X. I'll put her name.
Yeah, we printed it off and slid it physically across Dave's desk.
That's right.
So he could feel like he was...
You mailed it in, and then I opened the envelope, and then I saw, oh, thanks, Bridget. You mailed me the thing so I could slide it across my desk. Anyway, it's a Collider article about basically Negan's gotta go. Essentially, it boils down to Negan's storyline is tired. He's old. He's tired, blah, blah, blah. Basically not getting the point. Is that's the point. I read the article, and my overall impression of it, let me just give you the rundown. The title is, It's Time for the Walking Dead Universe to Move On from Negan. The author is Sean Van Horn. I say this not so that you can stalk and call him out and dox him or do whatever. Be respectful, because in his article, he was pretty respectful. He went into the lore, explained his love for The Walking Dead and the characters within it. It boils down to, why keep this guy alive if he's going to be so tired and boring? What is his role in the Walking Dead universe anymore? Negan was this, and what the point of introducing him in the series was, etc., etc. Let me give you a choice quote. There is no reason why Maggie and Negan should ever be hanging out with each other, which is the exact reason why this spin-off's premise is so great. She has every reason to hate the man who not only took the love of her life, but left her alone with their unborn son. She does loathe the man, but because she wants to keep her own sanity, believe in a better way, she won't kill Negan. Well, she was trying to. Okay, regardless, these two aren't friends and never will be, but Negan is trying hard to make up for what he's done. and Maggie comes to at least tolerate that he will be part of her life. And here's the third title. Negan has become boring in The Walking Dead, Dead City Season 2. First episode of Season 2 of Dead City has Maggie and Herschel together in their community, only for Maggie to be forced to return to Bay Apple by the New Babylon leadership. That already feels forced enough, but worse is what happens to Negan. He is now jailed by the Dama and the Croat, with their former wanting Negan to be her spokesman of sorts to rally the other NYC factions to fight New Babylon. He is beyond tired now, but the Dama wants to see the old Negan put on a show and ruled by fear. The Croat even brings him a gift, showing Negan a new version of Lucille, which now has the ability to electrocute its victims. Negan, always intolerant of bull S, says no, until the Dama hints that those he loves will be in danger unless he cooperates. Now here's where we get into it. Okay, so he's given the speech to the New York groups, but genuine fury and sinister energy he once had isn't there. Instead, he's going through the motions, looking bored out of his mind. The smile and cockiness are gone, replaced by the older man who mumbles and moves so slowly. And even, what's-his-name, comments on this, Christos. Skinny old ass man. Negan is neutered, having shifted from over-the-top sad and lifeless. He's barely even a parody of his former self as he tries to do what he's told. On top of that, it doesn't look like he'll be around Maggie much, so what is left for him to do? The original premise was it was exciting to see Maggie and Negan together because sparks fly, and they're not supposed to be together. How great of a premise. It's understandable why The Walking Dead doesn't want to kill off such a well-known character, but the time has come. It feels strange to say this, but Negan has become utterly boring. This isn't a knock on Jeffrey D. Morgan as an actor, it's the character who shows no life. The best thing they could do for Negan is give him a fitting end, sacrificing himself for Maggie or Herschel and bringing his arc full circle. If Negan makes it through this storyline, a third season of Dead City would likely give him little to do, but look sad and lumber around as if he was a walker himself. And isn't that ironic? His character has long been redeemed, and now it's time to say goodbye. I wanted to know what you guys thought of this on its face, because this really blew up Twitter. People like saying nasty things about Sean, and
Negan would have been gone a long time ago if it wasn't for him having such insane fans. Sometimes it feels like the fandom is all about JDM and Norman. Negan probably would have been gone and or not have a spinoff if he wasn't such a big fan favorite.
He is a fan favorite, but I do want to interject that this is also the case with comic book Negan. So this is not specifically JDM, although he is beloved for his character on television. And this is like probably his standout role. He's been in a lot of stuff, but this is the thing people know him for. But Negan is so popular in the comics for his liberal use of the F word, and you just didn't mess with him. And his plotline did follow a lot of those beats throughout the story in the show. After Kirkman ended the comic book, suddenly, I will remind everyone, he told everyone there was going to be more, and then he lied abruptly. It was over. The one comic book he's released since then in this vein
is Here's Negan. Well, yeah, and so obviously the events of The Walking Dead Dead City are not in the comic book, but I do understand Sean's criticism. And isn't that the irony of the show, is that the Croat wants him to be old Negan. The audience, some of the audience, not all, wants him to be old Negan. A strong contingent, or loud at least, contingent on the other side want him to die because Negan they don't like. They never like Negan. They want him to go away. They don't find him charming whatsoever or chewing the screen. they just, as a institution, they want Negan to die.
As much as I hated him, he was fun to watch. I don't feel like he's that fun to watch anymore. He's just walking around not doing anything. He killed the guy in this episode and then just disappeared.
I think that's for a reason. Right now, Negan is a part of this group that he clearly doesn't want to be a part of, but he also has to force himself to survive among these people, because if they think he's not with them, then he's against them, and there's a lot more people there that, could kill him if he's not on their side. So I think we're seeing a side of Negan that's forced to survive. He's forced to be doing something and acting a certain way that he doesn't like either. I don't think Negan likes what's going on right now, and we're seeing a lot of that. You're right. He's not fun to watch right now, but I think that's by design. We're supposed to see almost a depression right now. I hope it doesn't last the whole season. I'm hoping now that he's broken away, he talked his way into breaking away from everybody by going into Central Park to look for whoever is still alive or whatever. And hopefully this can be sort of his breakaway. Obviously that's not the case, because I unfortunately saw a few seconds of
the next episode.
What's to come. But
well, I ended up coming back to the Croat anyway. So it's like, but I think that's the point.
Well, and maybe he thinks it's the only way he can essentially protect Herschel
Well,
is
and
by
even Annie and
joining
Joshua.
forces.
I mean, I almost feel like when he was alone with the Dama and the Croat in the last episode, why didn't he just take them out then? There was no other people in there with him. It's like he has no drive anymore. Like you said, he's just trying to survive, but there was a time when he would have just taken both of them out and left. He decided to hang around instead.
But how's he getting out?
Yeah, and where's his family? That's the whole other
Yeah,
side
they
of the
are
coin.
holding his family over
Somewhere.
his head
We don't
right
know
now.
if they're on their way or whatever.
If it's even true.
I did want to say, it does kind of remind me of when Negan came into the picture. Who was the most boring to watch? Or, I don't know, I wouldn't say boring, but it's like watching a neutered Rick.
Remember in
Oh, yeah.
season 9 when he escaped and then he decided to come back because he couldn't hack it out there? I feel like that's where he's at now. He had Judith to play off of there, which made it really fun, but he's not doing that now.
I was going to say, to Rachel's point, this like depressed, worn down, broken down version of him that we're seeing, who's fearful that his family is going to be hurt or worse, killed, reminds me a lot of Negan in The Cell. That was not the fun Negan that we were used to. When I say fun, I'm talking about like the rhetoric, not,
Yeah, I know.
don't get it twisted.
No, I
People
mean,
who
no,
are
he's
mad about
just
it.
because you don't like that he's killing, it's still fun to watch. It makes him entertaining.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Humor in a broken world. But yeah, and why I compare it to Rick is because for the longest time, no matter what you felt about Rick in any given moment, he was still kind of the focal point of the show until at some point they defrayed it a bit. And then, of course, he left the show altogether. They kind of prepped for that a little bit before he left. From the top of season 8, I think it was, that they had mentioned that he would leave the show. In hindsight, obviously, we found this out, when all the season 9 news was breaking, and that he would leave the show in 5 episodes and blah, blah, blah. And you find out, oh, they had conversations about it way ahead of season 8 production. But isn't that like the show too? The show itself, on top of the audience wanting to see that type of Negan and the other half of the audience not wanting to see that Negan ever again, there's the whole idea of the theme of the show, which is the old interfacing with the new and possibly making something newer or innovative or getting rid of the old altogether. Isn't bringing Negan into this equation somewhat the same? And then you have these people that are trying to do something new, and yet they mimic the saviors in a way, or Negan's structure in a way, just one, all that other stuff, and where the differences lie. There's nothing original, and yet they're trying to do something very original, but it's not working out. I think we all like what we're seeing anyway. I only bring this up to kind of say everybody's entitled to their opinion. Sean doesn't deserve hate. It's a valid criticism of the show, of people who've loved it since whenever. You'd have to be completely ignorant to not know that The Walking Dead has lost popularity.
Well, this is part of a bigger conversation, though, too. I guarantee the hate that's received is because of this whole warring factions against whose show is doing better, which is ridiculous and stupid. And we've talked about it before. Yeah, it's because people come out so hot when someone has an opinion that differs from theirs in terms of like, is the show good or not? It's just not worth these large arguments. It's not worth personal criticism against a writer. It's stupid. That's dumb. He has a right to an opinion.
You started off really well by saying it's a part of a larger conversation.
It is.
I don't think this is all about like the minutia silos of not great numbers, by the way. These are very loud, small pockets of individuals who like to bang on drums. Correct. I think he wrote this about the larger Walking Dead universe, because this is a bigger publication. This is not like a niche, I'm a ranter on Twitter.
But I'm just saying, that's why you're getting all of those rants on Twitter, is because that's what's happening on Twitter right now.
I see.
Yeah.
I think it's also a greater commentary on The Walking Dead. The greater trend with anything is that once something starts to wane in popularity, you kind of want to watch the building fall down. And I think that's a little bit present in this article, is that you're not willing to see what blooms or what can come out of this, or come out of this Negan, how he can change.
Essentially people being exactly what the Dama is trying to fight against. No, I want it to be the way that it was.
But it can't be.
Okay. Well, if you burn it down, it could be something new.
Or even, you know what? Bridget, to your point, I want it to be like it was, but in the absence of that, burn it all down.
Yeah, basically.
Rather than recycle, reuse, like we would in the apocalypse. Let's find a found thing and make something out of it. Let's do something more beautiful and more meaningful. Let's give this character more of a fullness that you didn't think he could have before, which is what we said about The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, Carol and Daryl, how they have a fuller character development because of these new spinoffs. I think it's a valid criticism. I think it's great to kind of take a step back and see where the zeitgeist is headed. But I just wanted to bring that up because you can have these respectful debates and opinions and not it being a bloodbath. We had talked a lot about the Dama and what she purports to do, but we got to see a little bit of that in this episode. And one of those things is brainwashing. And I just wanted to bring this up as kind of like a something to have in your head. Because do we all agree, first of all, that the Dama is brainwashing Herschel?
Yes,
Definitely.
100%.
And how do we know that?
Heavy grooming.
How do we know that? Just like the one clearest bit of proof, besides what we think it might be.
Setting him up in the room with all of the art and giving him his own room and telling him how great he is to see the way she does.
Very similar to what Sharon said. She is rewarding him. She's his savior. What do you need? I'm going to bring in a bed for you. I'm going to bring you a blanket. What else do you need? And then she...
Oh, it's cold in here. I'm creating a situation where you need me.
Yep. Let me give you my cloak.
My personal cloak.
My cloak. So, I mean, immediately you feel special, right? And then literally being his savior when he's killing the walkers in the hallway. And she comes and literally rescues him.
Yeah, why else were they there?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
I think the food at the beginning too had something to do with that conditioning.
Okay.
That the walnut brittle, it's tucked away in her pocket as though it's hers. Like she hid it away
little
from him.
handkerchief. Yeah, I get it.
Like she hid it away. She stole it away from dinner to bring to him. Because I was thinking of you, even though I'm the one who's locked you up. So what?
That face Rachel made.
And
which you can't see audio podcast people.
So she offers it to him and he doesn't know what peanut brittle is because also like old people food, but whatever.
What a great device though, by the way, to illustrate the old and meets the new.
Rachel, are you serving peanut brittle like frequently at your job?
She's serving vomit actually at the thought.
She takes a bite and then offers him the remainder of the food, which is very intimate to say the least. So, and I don't mean this sexually. I mean like an intimate act. I'm not
like a
when I
mama
said
bird
grooming,
feeding a baby bird.
Yeah, when I said grooming, I also didn't mean sexually. That word means other
know
things.
What you mean. Everybody rational knows what you meant.
Okay, just for that 1% that doesn't.
Don't worry, we'll let you have it when we think it makes a difference.
That all signifies this like, I am now your mother. I'm your new mother. I'm your better mother. I'm your other mother.
Well, and I was where Maggie was always like, you have to be safe. You have to be safe. That seems to me like that was the majority of their relationship, was her not crushing him down, but keeping him down in order to keep him safe. The Dama was like, no, I totally understand. And I don't feel like Maggie's ever had that kind of conversation with him.
Be free, young man.
By biting it first and eating a piece of it first, she proved that it wasn't poisoned or she wasn't trying to trick him in any way.
Sometimes
That
we do
is
have to
true.
say the obvious.
I didn't think of that
you didn't?
actually.
That's exactly
I didn't
what
think
I
of
was
it.
thinking of.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it.
I'm like, don't eat that. And then she bites it. And I'm like, oh, okay.
She's reaching for the bands. He's like, no, don't touch my restraints. You know, that whole thing. You can see he's cagey. Here's the thing. Keep going with that. And you realize there was an emotional Jelko when he's embodying the Croat in his origin story. He left the Saviors. He wanted to go to what is essentially in Croatia, by the way.
It was all very Stockholm syndrome. Like you learn to love your captor.
So the Croat is going, he says after he left the Saviors, he wanted to go to Croatia. He says, Hrvatska. Okay, cool. Crashed into Manhattan. Not cool. Maybe cool. Who knows? I don't know if I like him. The Dama not only found him and gave him shelter and a warm place to stay, but he had this, what he calls kirikiki. Which is essentially peanut brittle. So again, there's a mirror here. She knows what she's doing.
I figured that's what he was referencing. I had no idea what the word meant, but I was like, this has to be peanut brittle.
It is peanut brittle. I looked it up too.
He says it.
Yeah, he says brittle candy or something to that effect.
Oh, that's
Brittle
why.
candy.
Okay, yeah, because he said brittle candy. That's why.
But yeah, it is literally translated to peanut brittle. By the way, I love the emotion from that scene that Jelko kind of exudes. And I'll never forget this. It's in his little quivering lip thing.
He's a really great actor.
He's an
it's just very
actor.
obvious in these scenes. I don't know. The other actors are great too, but he's a really phenomenal actor. I can't say anything else about it. I believe he's the Croat, like wholeheartedly. I believe he's his character.
And here's the thing: I don't know if I enjoy this part of the show, but I'm learning to appreciate the fact that you're confining these incredible actors into these character boxes that are meant to tie into the greater Walking Dead universe. And those moments where Jelko emotes this, I was suffering. I thought I was done for. And to think that not only was I saved and given shelter, but I was given a suite, that it could be like this, that the world isn't suffering and foraging, and it could be like it was, or like in his head, because he's clearly doing the things that was with the pheasant pate and the wine and everything. That's not old. That's not new. That's old. It's treating yourself to a life that you never had.
Everything.
Probably.
Yeah, everything he does is like in reverence of the days gone by.
Down to the music in the car too, which we will talk a little bit more about later. This episode was very beautifully written. All the transitions are not for naught, by the way. Everything ties into everything else. Every scene leads directly into the other narratively in parallel. Let me just talk about the brainwashing thing for a minute so you have it in your head. Here's a breakdown of the typical phases involved in brainwashing. And this is Google AI, but it ties in several articles to kind of give you a concise picture. The first stage, and it's 3 stages, unfreezing / breaking down the self. Obviously, you have KG, Herschel. Now, how do we get him un-KG? Isolation and control. He's in a cell. The individual is often isolated from their familiar social environment, including family, friends, and previous sources of information and support. Assault on identity. This is still phase 1. This stage involves undermining the person's sense of self and existing beliefs through various techniques like criticism and humiliation, which he had before by the pinky toe. The person's past beliefs and values are constantly attacked and ridiculed. Guilt induction. The person is made to feel guilty or ashamed of their past self and actions. Sleep deprivation and malnutrition. So you get the cold environment, right? That's like a little pressure. These techniques weaken the person's physical and mental resistance, making them more susceptible to manipulation. The threat of punishment. Clearly he had that before because he was beaten in the first season. The constant threat of physical or psychological harm creates fear and depends on the captor. The breaking point. This is the culmination of the unfreezing stage, where the individual experiences a severe breakdown in the sense of self and reality. They may feel lost, confused, and desperate for a way out of their misery. Okay, this is where we get to phase 2, the apex of Herschel's suffering. In comes the Dhamma, change / introducing the new belief system. Leniency and hope. Once the individual is broken down, the captor may offer leniency or a solution to the distress, often framed as a new belief system or ideology. Indoctrination and repetition. The new beliefs are introduced and reinforced through constant repetition of slogans. I like the new. I like what you like. Simple, easy, memorized phrases and repeated endlessly to instill new ideas. Controlled information. The individual's access to information is carefully managed, and only information that supports the new beliefs is provided. Right? So it's the control of new input for Herschel. So like the walkers, I get to feed you the walkers in the secure facility. How did they even get in? Positive reinforcement, cooperation, and acceptance of new beliefs are rewarded while resistance is punished. Peer pressure. The individual may be placed in a group setting where others are also being indoctrinated, creating pressure to conform. Confession and self-betrayal. The individual may be pressured to publicly confess past wrongdoings and betray their former beliefs, further solidifying their commitment to the new ideology. Now, Herschel didn't have to do that. The thing is, she read him. She knew this is already something that he already wanted by looking at the drawing. So for the large part, he can skip the steps, but the repetition, confirming her own desires with his and using the same kind of words over and over again, it's like, yeah, we're on the same wavelength. Refreezing and rebuilding the self. That's the final stage. New identity and beliefs. Individual adopts the new belief system as their own, right? Because I think she fed him exactly what he needed. Do we think that Herschel looked at everything and wanted what she wanted? No. But she saw that he was starved for an identity, and she gave it to him. You could be the one to draw the new tomorrow. The thing that you're doing, it could be more. And here's an opportunity. Dependence and loyalty. They become dependent on the captor or new group for support and validation, may feel a strong sense of loyalty to the new ideology. So he feels strongly about this new tomorrow. Reinforcement of new self. The identity is continually reinforced through continued indoctrination and participation in the group or belief system. Since Herschel, in my opinion, and I don't know what you think, didn't have much of a sense of self to begin with, I can easily see how easy it could have been to read the Dhamma and just read teenage angst as a form of, well, you're just blowing off some steam. Your mom didn't leave enough room for you with her big feelings. So here's something that, let me remove you from your mom. The first step, remove you from your past life and feed you using your empty chasm of a self with a new identity.
I mean, I think up until now, his identity has been Glenn's son.
I think we can all agree to that.
He's a teenage boy. Think of yourself as a teenager. All you're doing is spinning around in the world trying to figure out who exactly it is that you are.
Taking yourself way too seriously.
It's all you're doing as a teen is trying new things and seeing, is this going to be the person that I am now?
Well, did you find as you were a teen that it's like you're constantly trying to solidify your identity? denying that your identity is actually pretty much more fluid than you think it is, rushing to adulthood.
Even kids I teach now who are 4 and 5 are telling me that they can't wait to get a job and all this other stuff.
Because I'm going to be an X.
From the moment we are born, we are rushing to adulthood, and then we get to adulthood and all we want to do is go back.
I love
But
this.
that's neither here nor there.
I love
I want
this.
to go farther forward. I'm ready to be old.
I love that for you.
I do not want to be a kid. I want to be.
Is it admission that
old
you are a
person.
kid or you feel like a kid?
No, I'm very much an adult. I hate this part. I want to be the old.
So I want to impress you further for this, but I'm not going to. The title of this episode is Why Did the Mainlanders Cross the River? Rachel, in terms of the title, which you only discovered was the title minutes
I
ago,
did.
how does that relate to this episode?
Who are we considering the Mainlanders?
Great question.
We met a new group of people in this episode. They gave us the impression that they've been there for a while. At some point in the past, were they Mainlanders and then took over this area? What are the New Babylonians? Are they the Mainlanders? Are we talking about people who are already on the island? Are they the Mainlanders? But they didn't really cross a river, so I guess that kind of takes them out of the question.
Yeah, but if we're thinking of like New York City as a whole, Dave, isn't that the case? Like people do not live in Manhattan, they work in Manhattan.
Well,
I mean, people do live in Manhattan, obviously, but like not these people.
well, even Brooklyn and Queens is also the whole 2 counties, Kings and Queens County. Those are also islands technically, along with Long Island. So that's why the Croats is an island within an island. There's the greater New York area, Staten Island, Brooklyn, Queens.
He was referring to
he
himself.
was talking
though,
about
Dave.
himself being.
Oh
an
yeah,
island.
sure. But it's also kind of like the case that Manhattan, all the counties, let me just make sure that's true, except for Bronx. The Bronx is the only thing really kind of connected to the mainland, actually. It's kind of interesting to think of, but they're all separated they're all in the water, technically. They're not part of the contiguous United States, let's say, technically separated by water.
What was the question again? What was the name of the episode?
Why did the mainlanders cross the river?
To get to the other side.
Yeah, there you go. That's the most obvious, Rachel.
There you go.
Right? This is actually, so Bridget, you actually hit on something that's interesting because there is a debate in New York City about when you become a New Yorker. That sentiment is heavily reflected with the question.
You know what? Y'all are quick to claim that you live somewhere else.
No, there was a How I Met Your Mother episode about
Quick to
Becoming.
claim that you live somewhere else. So I don't think you get to do
Can
that.
you elaborate on that?
Because you be driving down here and you're like, no, I live here now. I'm a North Carolinian.
No.
Are you? You're not. And you still have your New York plates and you drive like you're from New York.
Yeah, so
Get out.
at the same time, New Yorkers themselves, but you're thinking the reverse, because isn't it that people are the same all over, especially in a city that's very hard to live in, ostensibly or objectively speaking, but when you're here and you...
I mean, sure.
And you know that you're gonna live
some
here?
degree. But I am firmly against zipper merging, and that is what New Yorkers bring
Against
to North
zipper
Carolina.
merging, or you're
Yes.
pro
Yes,
zipper
you
merging?
know that it's coming. You know that road is ending. Stop trying to get up to the front so you can get in front of everyone. You're a punk.
That's not zipper merging, that's jumping ahead.
That's what I'm saying. But they all claim
Oh.
learn how to zipper merge. It's not zipper merging. You're being a dick.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I know what that is. Okay, you are of the belief, we're not going to take this any further, you're of the belief that no, there should be a line and you know that lane's going to end, so why
You
don't
do
you
know.
enter that line?
That's the Southern approach to this. Thank you very
I
much.
feel very attacked right now.
Yeah, you should. As you should. That's why I'm hitting my camera, because this is
me
directed
her
at
swatting
you.
me.
Okay, but Dave, I actually am.
I'm not saying boo, I'm not judging anybody.
No. Zipper merging is you are supposed to go up to the front.
Use both
yes,
lanes.
you are not supposed to switch over to the other lane and get in the slow line. You are supposed to pull up to the front. But you know what? My family is from New York.
Okay, we're going
You're
to...
part of the problem. This is you too.
Cut, we're going to end it here. This is
Okay,
getting
let's
into
just
a
end
big
it here.
debate. Comments, what do you do? Do you wait in line like everybody else, or do you use both lanes to
Or are
create a
you a
merge of
jerk?
traffic?
Do you do it the right way, or
Or
are you a
like
jerk?
a tremendous jerk?
But I mean, I'm not saying you're supposed to jump out of the long line into the short line either. If you're already in that
That's what
lane,
everyone does.
stay
Yeah,
in
that's
that
what
lane.
everyone does. It's a joke now. Now, anytime there's someone who does something like that, I'm like, oh, must be from New York.
Right.
It's just a joke. It's just a joke
Going
now.
back to the thing I'm bringing up, isn't it the same all over that? Let's say somebody moves to a new city. you're quick to claim that city. It's kind of like what you're saying, except New
Yeah,
Yorkers
obviously.
do this like crazy. For a city that is very difficult to live in, objectively speaking, you're even more quick to claim it. And isn't that the case in the Walking Dead universe too? How a lifelong relationship is 4 months in or 2 months in
Yeah.
because things get accelerated.
Well, I mean, I've known people who lived in New York for like a year and they changed their number when they got there and then they refused to ever change it back.
Right.
Because they wanted to
That
claim
cool
that they were
number,
a New Yorker
yeah.
forever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That cool 917 number, right? They have a 917 number. That's the one they claim.
It was a 917.
Yeah, there you
yeah.
go. See, area code 917. And so this is the joke. It's kind of an inside joke in a sense. You'll see people moving in from Ohio all the time and claim being a New Yorker 2 years in. And you're like, listen, musician, when you wash out and move back to Ohio, you tell me if you were a New Yorker. This is a sentiment, by the way. It's always Ohio, too, mostly. It's always mostly.
Wisconsin, some obviously, because I ran into some of them, but
Weird, but it's mostly Ohio for some reason.
What about Floridians? I proudly retain my Floridian status. I have not claimed North Carolinian.
to be fair, New Yorkers often do migrate to Florida.
Yep, they do. And North Carolina and everywhere else.
No, a lot of them are in Florida.
Predominantly.
Yeah, but most of them are in Florida. You're right. And some of the younger ones will go to, well, at least it used to be the case until I think Florida made things a little bit more difficult. They would go down to Florida, register their car there so they can get the Florida plates, come up to New York and have that Florida insurance. So there's that. Anyway, I say all this to say there's more to this joke than even just that. Because isn't that why he brought it up? To kind of say, dude, I see New York more than you see New York. That kind of thing. Negan is saying this to Waylon. Isn't that kind of what he's saying, though, too?
I don't know. Does he talk to Waylon?
I mean, he does.
Like
but
for like a minute.
Who's Waylon?
Waylon is the big fella that he takes into the Central Park.
Clearly very impactful
I don't know about
character.
Waylon, but the Dama obviously thinks that Herschel sees New York.
The way it
and
could
he
be.
just got there.
Right. But he sees New York with
That
his
clank.
artist eye.
He's claiming New York.
See, the way you shake your fist at that is the way I'm shaking my fist at you in my car.
With
Okay?
zipper emerging. So there is a more literal thing than that when we're talking about why did the Mainlander cross the river? And it is, why is it called the Hudson River in New York City? Why is it called the Hudson River if it's an estuary?
I don't know, resident New York guy.
It's an estuary, so we still call it the Hudson River, even though it's basically an estuary.
It's a what? I don't know what that
Estuary.
word means.
Estuary is the point at which a river spills out into the sea.
Okay.
So-
Okay.
So the joke is almost on the literal. It's like,
But it's
I
still
know
a
more.
river before it turns into the sea.
By the
right?
time it gets to New York City, it's already an estuary because it's at the point at which, okay, when you're sailing the Hudson,
It's past the mouth already?
it's past the mouth already, basically.
Okay, there you go.
I guess
Yeah,
I'd have
and
to
so-
see a picture.
Yeah, so when the New Babylon Federation were sailing from the Staten Island Ferry on the Staten Island side to past the Statue of Liberty,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's called Liberty Harbor, but whatever. It's still part of the Hudson River, even though it's already kind of practically in the sea. So it's interesting. So on the literal, he's saying to the guy who doesn't know any better, it's not a river. They didn't. It's an estuary. They crossed the estuary. So Negan's kind of just making fun of
The
him.
Hudson estuary doesn't quite roll off the tongue the same way.
Of course
Yeah.
not.
It doesn't.
We pronounce things weirdly all the time. Like DeKalb is decalb. You wouldn't know.
It's
don't
actually
know what that
DeKalb. Depending.
Exactly.
We have a
Is that
DeKalb
another
street here.
city?
The original French is decalb. Yeah.
There's a lot of French named stuff around here because of the Revolution, because of all the French soldiers and all Lafayette and all that.
Okay, this is the quintessential. How do you pronounce Houston?
Well, I mean, the city is Houston, but Houston
Correct.
would be the pronunciation. Yeah.
In New York City,
Oh,
Houston Street.
Houston.
Yeah.
That's right. We mess things up all the time. We call things what they aren't all the time. So, yeah. And one more fun fact before we continue. Where is the Statue of Liberty? In what state does it reside? Technically.
Please say New Jersey.
Yes, correct.
Really?
Technically, it's part of New Jersey,
Everything
funny.
is legal in New Jersey.
including
How much
Liberty.
does that tick off New
Liberty.
Yorkers?
I've been listening
specifically.
to Hamilton a lot. That's a line from Hamilton.
What's interesting about some things in New York City is that some are joint ventures. So New Jersey and New York form the Port Authority, which means some of the things that you have joint control over. some of that is actually buildings too, which is really weird. I don't understand that at all. Buildings that are in Manhattan.
Is this like the whole Daredevil Reborn thing with the area that they're trying to build up?
Oh,
There's like
yeah.
no direct law over it. Is this that same situation?
Technically, that's like a title situation. There's the title
okay.
to the Red Hook, which is in Brooklyn, by the way, belongs to
Sorry,
no one.
I shouldn't have brought up another show. That was dumb. I just chastised people for it at the beginning of this. I'm sorry.
So the Port Authority bus terminal, and the Grand Central Station, that goes to New Jersey too. That's a joint venture between the tunnels and bridges. Same thing, Port Authority. So they have a joint sort of situation going on. So technically, the Statue of Liberty falls under that. Technically, it's in New Jersey, but technically, New York and New Jersey run that. They both pour in money to preserve that. Again, going to the premise, they both take pride in that. They can both have pride in that.
This is like how South Carolina jumps onto everything North Carolina does.
Okay, same vibes.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
They're like, no, it's the Carolinas. And we're like, no, it's not.
Rachel's laughing, denying us delicious laughter on mute. She's dying.
I really enjoyed the episode. I'm going to say it was a little slower. I mean, it's giving third episode energy. Things happened, but it wasn't like edge of my seat. Oh my gosh. The one thing I could really talk a lot about and really have a conversation with you guys is the scene between Herschel and Negan. There was literally nothing said, but it was so heavy.
Dave always says it's a pregnant moment,
right?
It's a pregnant pause.
And I like the moments where there's no dialogue, because sometimes they can speak the loudest. I'm very happy that we saw a little flashback of the Dama. Opening scene. I was like, oh, flashback, boom, right away.
This is the thing we've been waiting for.
Immediately knew a flashback was coming, and I'm glad we got to see it, because it was speculation. I think we all kind of thought what happened is what happened. Yeah. So it was nice to see it. It was nice to see how it played out. It was a little creepy. I still think the Dama, because she said it again in the episode that she lost something. I think it was a child or a child figure, someone she considered a child. If it wasn't a literal child, someone she considered a child. Someone she cared a lot about.
What she said was, something I loved was stolen from me once. Mm-hmm. Very choice words. I lost everything. I couldn't get it back. Worse than the sadness and the anger, I had to pull myself through it, which reminded me of Martha a little bit.
By myself.
Well, you can say stolen and that mean like stolen by death.
Sure.
Or taken too soon.
Yep. Not literally snatched.
Well, we don't know, Dave. We don't know.
Hey, I gotta say the things.
No, I thought the same thing.
All right.
I didn't think she meant literally stolen by another person. But wouldn't that be interesting to find out that this was a person literally stolen, and then this person shows up later?
Well, to invoke Bridget, we don't know it was a person.
That's true. She said something.
A person.
Oh, I thought you were going to opposition defiance the sword in me.
I much like Rachel assume that it is a child or a child figure in some way. However, I'm willing to accept that it could be anything. She could just be crazy. It could have been her dog. It could have been a pen. I don't know. But
wouldn't that be something? Is a dog all along? Actually, and how would you? Okay,
what was her favorite pen, Rachel?
For you pet people,
I can relate. I had a favorite pen for 5 years.
You know what? When you have a favorite pen and you just never use it because it's so precious to you, that's what I have.
Oh no!
I have that type of anxiety. Yeah. Heavy on that type.
Which is like, you should use it if you love it, right? Anyway, but going back to the pet people, all of you basically.
Pet people.
Would you have a negative reaction if it was a pet that was stolen from her? That all this drama.
If it caused her to jump off like the edge.
Obviously, all the drama
I get
is
it.
because of a lost pet.
I get it.
Like she's like, my dog was stolen and I kidnapped a child in retribution. It makes no sense.
Thank you.
Did the child did Herschel take your dog from you? Because otherwise it doesn't make any
sense. Does Herschel look like your dog?
That's weird, Dave.
Some boys do. They look like little puppies.
Negan is the reason she lost that thing, and that's why she has brought him there. There's many, many times that Negan was responsible for deaths of people. It's very easy for her to see Negan as killing someone she loved and that person being stolen from her.
Was she originally looking for him? I thought it was the Croat.
Because of the Croat, I think. But isn't the Dama in charge?
Right.
Well, no. According to the Croat, they're partners.
That could just be something they're saying.
But that's brainwashing.
Yeah.
To make him think that they're partners and then all of a sudden treating him differently.
Yeah.
but still believing that they are. Oof. What a number she did on
She
him.
could have found out that he knew where Negan was, or
Right.
that he had a past with
Oh.
Negan, and so she brought him as a partner. But
And make
maybe
it is his
it's
idea all along, right?
in her twisted mind, she's like, well, he stole something from me, so let me take something that matters to him. And somehow she figured that Herschel mattered to him in some way.
Okay. I like the dual use of Herschel, though, at the same time. That she's using Negan to further her aims, but also having Negan means that she can solidify her relationship with Herschel. If she ends Negan in front of Herschel, and we can debate it because there's more
I see what you're
data
saying.
there.
Yeah.
It's a dual use Negan.
Yeah.
That could cement my relationship
Like,
with
look what
Herschel.
I did for you. I killed the person who killed your father. I'm avenging you, type of thing. And she's amping it up by talking about how big Maggie's feelings are and not giving him the space to, feel his feelings or express his feelings. And
Which
he
can go both
lashes
ways.
out, and he lashes out at Maggie for that specific reason in this episode too. So it stuck with him.
Right. And he could claim, I took care of it for you. Or the Dama did, but by proxy, I took care of it. Maggie, my mommy.
What a flex it would be if the Dama could be like, this man killed my son, and now I've managed to make him like a number 2 in my group or whatever.
Exactly. 100%. Can we hang on this a little bit? Because, and I love this, because going back to the scene with Herschel and Negan, they're facing off. His face gets all twisted, Herschel's, once he sees him. But to understand that scene better, you have to go further into the episode. Because of that conversation that Maggie has with Herschel, he explains to Maggie, his mom, and the Dama kind of says it earlier, your thing with Negan, whatever that is, that thing with revenge about my dad and everything, your feelings are so big that there was no room for me. That is kind of obvious in the first season when we talked about the last episode, that this whole big thing was so big, when it entered the picture again, there was no room for me. I think that really helps us understand their relationship as it is right now a lot more. It also helps us understand the drawing that he made, because it's not 100% obvious at first. You don't know what you're seeing in his drawing in the first episode near the end credits. You're looking at it and you're like, it looks like explosions, right? But no, these are new structures that he's building from the old. It's like a glass omnidirectional room in this building where the explosion was. And it looks like an explosion because they've fitted it to be that way. It's kind of cool that you see a thing at first and you don't understand it. Then because of things that were said, you actually see it now the way Herschel sees it. Anyway, going back to the conversation between Maggie and you understand the scene with Negan a lot more. Because from my understanding, it feels like I'm Herschel. I'm supposed to hate Negan. Because all I've ever heard and seen and felt from Maggie, which occupies most of my headspace and whatever, all the things she told me over the years, is that I'm supposed to hate him. And obviously you're supposed to hate him. But with all the big feelings, when he sees Negan, he jumps to take him out because that's what he's supposed to do, right? He's supposed to kill the old, right? He's supposed to kill the thing that killed his father. But I think he doesn't have any feelings towards Negan one way or the other. He's supposed to hate him. But if he sat with his thoughts for one moment as himself, as a person in the world, he doesn't know his father. He doesn't know Negan. I don't think he cares about it, but he's been felt or fed or told, and all the feelings around him are meant to tell him, if you see him, go and kill him, because that's your father's killer. And that's kind of an us too, in a sense. At one point or another during our Walking Dead universe journey, we too wanted to kill Negan at some point. We wanted him gone. The whole Rick struggle thing, we wanted him gone. We're supposed to hate him. But if Herschel sat down with it for 1 second, he'd realize he doesn't have feelings one way or the other.
I could agree with that, honestly. He didn't know his dad. There's not that emotional connection that he lost because it was never there. I'm trying to think of a scenario where I was ever upset about something that happened before I was even born. I don't know. I can't even think of anything that could come close to comparing to that.
Could you compare it to when your best friend, when you're younger, tells you that they hate somebody, and then like the expectation is that you hate that person too, even though you have no connection to that person?
That's kind of the only thing I could compare it to. And I did, right? We did hate that person.
Blindly. Yes.
Where was it we were talking about emotional oxygen? Which series? That friend that you have that takes up all the emotional oxygen so there's none left over for you? We talked about this in some series recently. What series did we cover?
Maybe Dark Winds.
Was it Dark Winds?
Maybe.
I don't remember. I don't recall.
The Wailing, maybe. I don't know. But either way, yeah, of course I understand that. And it's a very similar thing, right? you talk up a big game, and like, I am supposed to hate Negan. And that's the very point of his frustration, is that it's consumed his life by proxy. Maggie's influence over him is the thing that frustrates him. And it's left no room for his own identity, his own will, his own thoughts. It's pretty interesting thinking.
He also has had a run-in with Negan before when he was younger. They kind of hashed out their differences there. Not hashed out the difference, but he came to realize that, oh, maybe this man isn't the monster that I'm supposed to believe he is. And now that he's seeing him again, he doesn't have the hatred feelings because he's seen the other side of Negan.
But what did Negan tell Herschel as a child? Do you remember? Yeah. Yes. I don't remember the exact line, but
I thought she was gonna say it.
No, I don't remember the direct quote. But Negan
Didn't he
had
say,
a conversation.
like, if you see me again?
Well, he said
something about, like,
I'll
kill
be
me.
waiting for you. You'll grow up and you'll want to kill me.
But don't rush to it. Like,
right.
get to it.
It'll happen
when you get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But he knew when Herschel was a kid, like, you're going to grow up, you're going to want to kill me, and you should. So go ahead. I'll be waiting for you, essentially.
Maybe those very words made Herschel say, well, dang, that doesn't sound like something a monster would say.
It did kind of take the air out of his sails in that scene. But when Herschel takes that shot, what does Negan do? He barely flinches. Barely. The shot was wildly off.
When you're a teenager, your tendency is to rebel against your parents. So Herschel, by not wanting to kill Negan, would be doing the worst rebellion against Maggie that he possibly could.
I mean, I'm sure there's some hatred for him, right? Like, he's the reason his dad's not in his life. So that alone would, sure, I never got to meet my dad, but this guy's the reason I never got to meet my dad. I would definitely have some negative feelings towards that person. But I think they're amplified because of Maggie.
That's her entire personality, is hating Negan and not being over Glenn.
I mean, hating everything, really, right?
Right. So for Herschel, being a teenager, he's like, well, if my mom's all about this, then I have got to go the other way.
I think she's consumed by fear. If you boil it down, it's grief, and then it's the fear of more grief and continued grief, because she's lost everyone who was important to her. Not to say that everybody else hasn't, because they have, but she lost all of her family in these, like, really tragic ways. Her family was trying to make a better world, and they died in doing so in front of her in several cases. Put in that same position, wouldn't we be the same way? Maybe we'd be making more jokes, but other than that, we'd be similar.
Herschel has a completely different outlook on the world because he doesn't remember the old world. He wasn't born when the world was the way it was. He has grown up with violence and death and tragedy to the point that that is just a normal state of being. That's all he knows, because that's all that has been since he's been born. He has no knowledge of what it would be like before that.
Look at the cast of World Beyond. Mm-hmm. They were living fairly carefree in the apocalypse because they were excited for the freedom. And those kids grew up. They weren't born after it happened. They knew what the regular world was like. They just didn't have a ton of memory about it. But
well, they were educated.
Even that changed the way that they interacted with the world around them. So you can only imagine then a child who only has known this and not even known it in its best states. Because you think about it, he's like running through the woods with his mom for like half of his life or whatever.
At least in the World Beyond, they lived in a fairly stable place.
They had an objective view of the apocalypse.
They had the closest you could have to the real world in the previous world in the apocalypse.
Yeah, Herschel had to eat spiders.
Right. Well, I kept thinking about the story Maggie told about finding the women that had their arms and legs and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And I mean, to see that kind of thing all the time, he's got to be somewhat desensitized to it in a way that people in the before time can't possibly be desensitized.
Right. The old normal, or his normal. I mean, I know that she closed his eyes throughout the entire thing, but still, maybe she told him about it. I don't know. Maybe he saw some things.
How many kids keep their eyes completely shut?
That was just one story of years of being on the run and seeing terrible things. Like I said, it's just something that he's lived with his entire life. He doesn't know anything different. Whereas the people who lived in the before time, they're always going to have a different point of view because they just came from a different place.
There's one thing that I wanted to go back to when it came to the Dama, though, because in something that she says, like the kind of linchpin that gets her to convince Herschel or to coerce Herschel or persuade Herschel, bring him into her fold, is the thing that she says about something I lost was stolen from me once. I lost everything. I couldn't get it back. And she says, I was alone for a very long time. What is a very long time in the apocalypse? Probably not that long for us in the real world, but consider that the Croat came into her life within the first 2 years, because we don't see the Croat in The Walking Dead. In The Walking Dead, when we meet Negan is 2 years in, basically. So she's been alone for the first 2 years, all alone. I mean, this is the point I kind of want to make. Is she lying when she says that to Herschel, that she's been alone for a very long time, or she was alone for a very long time? Or does she mean that more metaphorically? I've not met anybody like you.
It's a very good question, and I could see either being true.
Or both.
Okay, because I want to catch her in a lie that she's telling Herschel, but I don't know. Guess
well,
we don't know,
Could be a
Dave.
lie too.
Bridget.
Exactly. We don't know, Dave.
We sort of do, though.
Not in this situation.
I don't know. If the Croat left Negan within a year, let's say, I mean, is a year a very long time in the apocalypse? I guess so, but
As princess.
Well, that's already 7 years in, if not more. No, definitely more. The princess, we find princess during the Whisperer War.
No, I know, but groups of people came and went, but she was like alone for a year.
Okay. Well, and yeah, I don't know how long she's been without those people, but she's definitely been alone longer than the Dama. The Dama's been with the Croat since year 2. Mac, at least, if not earlier. So, and how long is that now? If we go to the PDI, she's been with the Croat for, at most, you could even say 17 years. We don't know when the Croat met up with Negan and when he left.
We'll say like 15.
Like years. The least you can say is 15.
Yeah.
Sure.
15-ish.
I've been alone without an equal, in a sense. Because she says partnership with the Croat
for a long time, right? Not I've been alone. She's not saying she's currently alone. She said I was alone for a long time.
And alone still for a very long time.
Can you read the
Let me read the exact quote. Okay.
Yeah.
Worse than the madness and the anger, I had to pull myself through it alone. And alone still for a very long time.
Okay, so when she's making that speech,
do you get it?
Because that's what it is. It's exposition. But when she makes that exposition speech, now this is an assumption on my end, but
what?
I assumed that this could have been a reference to the before times, that she had lost something before and was alone in that. This is the whole concept of like, can a man be an island, right? Like, because no man is an island is like the saying. Can a man truly be an island? When I say man, I don't mean actual men.
God, I can't believe you have to qualify this.
I have to qualify everything, Dave.
Oh, they hate me? Get over it, everybody.
I want to be liked, damn it.
Mankind, everybody. We're called humans.
Yes.
Deal with it.
So
not humans.
Yeah, no man is an island.
I make it worse. I'm sorry.
No man is an island. So we're referring to this concept of like, you can be amongst people and still be alone. And this is told time and time again. I mean, we look back on people like Bob Stuckey. He's with people, but he's truly alone. Princess, for the first portion of her time with everybody, she can't connect. So she's with people, but she's still alone. Eugene, when he's ostracized, there's all of these different people who float and kind of act as this island. Because the truth is, even though the saying is no man is an island, you can be an island. Yeah. It's not convenient and it's not easy, but you can be.
I think when, you know what? Okay, let's bring this to the Walking Dead universe. Makes it so that you're the person you're meant to be. Let's use that because I like the idea of her being alone before. That I really like, because if that's the case, her being in the apocalypse, the Croat washes at her shores, and then she's no longer alone. Okay, we'll go with that.
Correct.
Fine. If it was a thing that was stolen from her from the before, then her today, isn't it always a response to something from before? In some cases.
Well, doesn't something about her character give you the impression that she at one point was timid?
That's hard. I'm
going
to use a Bridget.
It's a big assumption. I'm sorry.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, it is hard to say. It's a big assumption on my end. I apologize.
Listen, again, imitation is the highest form of flattery, Bridget. When I do this, it's me in praise of you. So like I'm thinking of you when I channel you.
It doesn't hurt my feelings.
But I like the idea of, instead of dealing with whatever that was, or she says she dealt with it alone, meaning maybe she didn't have the resources in the before times, or didn't make herself available or avail herself of those resources in the before times to get her through it. And if that's the case, then her now is a twisted response to that loss.
It's as simple as like, she says something was taken from me, or stolen from her? What if it was her freedom? What if she was in solitary confinement? Like, there are a million different ways that you can go with this. We just don't know until we get more information. It's an assumption, but I felt like in that dialogue, it felt like it was before. I don't know why that's where my brain went. It just is where it went.
It's like a playground for me. Like, I love this idea. And if that's the case, and then this isn't the obvious response. And so I love that it's in response to a thing rather than dealing with it head on. She, again, wants to erase the past, the thing that makes her sad, mournful. And what is this episode, if not mostly dealing with loss? The idea of losing someone or losing something.
Yeah, correct.
Let's take the next step from what we were just talking about.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really want to talk about the scene with the new room.
Not just new, the room she designed
For him.
I know.
And the
I have
room,
some interior design opinions about that.
and you're calling it a room, but it's an elevator.
It is literally an elevator.
biggest
That's what I
elevator
want
I've
to talk
ever
about. That's what I
seen.
want to talk about.
It's a freight elevator. That's why it's so big. It's so you can move heavy and large
That's why it has the doors
instruments
that, the
in
way the
theater.
doors slammed up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so just so you know, for context, because your face and your question is very important, because in New York City, you're thinking to yourself, how do I get a piano up an elevator, a normal passenger elevator? You don't. In Manhattan, most buildings have one or more passenger elevators, but they also have one or more freight elevators. And this is in most office buildings, residential too, some cases. So it's important to kind of have that context in mind. And of course, she uses the freight elevator, which looks super rad, but also makes me worried. But I'm sure the Croat did the structural engineering to make sure that elevator was safe to go up and down. We can go into the details of that room in just a sec. What I really want to focus on, though, is the Dama says something very important near the end. Basically, the refreezing stage of her brainwashing. And that is, it's great that we agree, basically. This thing that you and I agree on. It's beautiful, but not everyone's going to think so.
It's getting choked up.
It's beautiful, but not everyone's going to think so. We have to protect it. You and me, right? Against the world.
It's so creepy.
We have to make sacrifices.
I don't like that she sat on the bed right after she said it either. It really gave me the heebie-jeebies.
I did not notice that. And now that you said it, thanks.
Yep. You're welcome, everyone.
This is the thing, though. And when you go home, there may be some things that you're going to have to do. And that sent me into a tailspin about the episodes prior. Because was it Herschel that led the moths to the cornfields in New Babylon, making it so that New Babylon would forcibly come to the island so that they'd have they'd accelerate their plan.
That is a wild thought.
Isn't it?
Herschel, the Pied Piper of moths.
I mean, I don't.
Maybe they gave him a jar.
How does he get moths to follow him? And what?
The Dom
They
is
gave him a
obviously
jar,
smart.
and the chrysalises were glued to the lid.
Oh, okay, maybe.
I'm just saying it's possible.
That's how you transport them.
I mean, I definitely got like a sleeper cell vibe after that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because then you have to think of what the things could be that he did influence, besides the obvious tire fire, right? And maybe it's not obvious. I don't know. But just thinking about what led up to this second season, it's the fuel, the ethanol not being available. And of course, we have to have our heating and our humidifier room with the cigars and everything. And all the other things too, right? We have to have the ice cream, Bridget. We have to have the ice cream. So we need fuel. Where are we going to get the fuel from? An exploratory, quote unquote, mission to Manhattan, right? No, we need that ethanol now, as Narvaez says. And Maggie's questioning it, like kind of passive aggressively. Oh, I thought this was an exploratory mission, Narvaez. Like saying it out loud as a, yeah, I knew it.
I was thinking of the painting last week. If we think of the Dama as Cronus, what does that make Herschel in terms of that? Cronus ate all of his sons until he got to Zeus, who tricked him by getting him to eat a rock.
It was really Gaia, but yeah.
Zeus cut open Cronus, and all of the sons that he had eaten escaped.
Poseidon, Hera. To be more precise, you had said it actually last week. Vulcan is technically Hephaestus. He's the metalworking god, mechanical objects, etc. So he would be probably the most of the creatives in that respect. So Hephaestus, Vulcan would be the one.
I want to meet whoever is representative of Bacchus.
That's a demigod. But actually, I can't believe you were kind of like pre-right about her. I mean, you weren't saying it about you were saying about the Croat, and that would be Pluto, which is Hades. But anyway, yeah. And look at what Herschel's drawing. If we're talking about twisted skyscrapers and metalworks, yeah, that would be Vulcan / Hephaestus. So Herschel would be that god, essentially. I like that a lot, Sharon D. I really do. There's a bigger commentary too, because I wanted to talk about what your opinion on the bricks, Bridget,
I don't have anything.
which made the clip, by the way.
Oh, it's depressing. It's horribly depressing. I would not want to live there.
Would you want to live with the foragers?
Yeah, actually, they seem more cool.
The bricks is kind of a representation of Maggie. It's, I don't want to say ugly, but in her spirit.
Dull.
Yeah, I said the color
Right.
palette was.
But what I'm saying is a representation of where Maggie lives. It's just like her. It's austere. It's stern. No,
It's
there's
Soviet
no
Russia.
Yeah, it's not flowery or creative in any way. It's just straightforward, which is Maggie now. She has one all-consuming thought, which is Herschel in Living in the Past. So I was saying, as a representation of Maggie, I think the bricks is perfect. Again, not ugly. I don't mean it in like an attractive, but just dark and sinister and
Drab.
right, drab. Yeah.
Very utilitarian
But why?
would be the way I would describe it.
Is it because of Maggie? Because we did see season 1.
Well, she didn't build the bricks, Dave.
No, wait. Hold on a sec. We saw season 1, and part of season 1, you got to see a classroom setting. Everybody's kind of happy. There's a lot of children. All of a sudden, where are they? We don't know.
No, it seemed pretty depressing in season 1 too.
Far less depressing. There was a lot more green in the palette, especially in the classroom scene when I took a couple screenshots. If you think about it, isn't it not Maggie? And isn't it what she says about New Babylon? That your help is you taking basically resources. Isn't that like the saviors again?
Oh, yeah, you're right. I forgot about the silo, like the grain silo and stuff.
Exactly, the grain silo.
I
which
did forget about that.
Ginny had
It
sabotaged
was much
or whatever.
more hilltoppy looking, which makes sense because Maggie has the background of agriculture. So for everything that she relies on to become this like agricultural center makes sense, right? Hilltop became that for everyone, really. And then so it makes sense for the bricks to become that also. And you're right, it is worse. And they do take resources. And I don't agree with their sentiment that they make things better because it doesn't look like they've done anything to make anyone's life better other than themselves. I'm not going to state anything further on that.
Isn't us, isn't it about everybody?
It's not
But
an
it's
us,
not about
though.
everybody because you're not taking care of everybody. You can't possibly.
No.
Well,
That's
so-
the problem.
And I only say this to make the point is that we look at the bricks and we even called it New Hilltop until we found out its name was the bricks in season 1. But you look at the bricks now, that's a direct result of New Babylon Federation. And isn't that also Narvaez? This is kind of interesting that I'm tying Narvaez to this person, but they can't see what's possible. She's speaking about the foragers, the people that they find in the cafe on the lake is what it's called, which is a real thing. This episode is about learning from one another's perspectives. Because isn't the foragers an extreme version of Maggie, having their own way, living life on their terms, that kind of thing, even at the expense of modernization?
That's why she feels so strongly about leaving them alone. Like they're fine without anybody else.
Exactly.
They have a system that works for them. Just leave them alone. Even before the bricks. You think of Hilltop. She left, but it wasn't left alone.
But her philosophy at the time was, we're not sharing our resources with the saviors. Screw them.
Correct. Whatever their place was called with the Reaper story arc.
Oh, the Wardens, which is called Meridian.
Meridian.
Yeah, that's right. Meridian also, if the Reapers had just left her alone, she would have been fine. They were just eviscerating everyone.
I
But
sense a repeating theme.
yeah, this is a repeating theme for her. Had the Saviors left her alone, she would have the life that she wanted. Had the governor left the prison alone, she would have maybe had the life that she wanted. Had Rick's group left her family alone, this constant story of like invasion and integration, invasion and integration.
She wouldn't have
invasion
met
and integration.
Glenn, and maybe one would argue.
Correct.
It's-
So
you never know.
you can't live that like I don't want anyone to come in ever. But in
Right.
this case, she's like, look, I've had experience with you. You've made my community nothing but worse. You should leave these people alone.
The comic criticism about Rick. Just coming in, ruining communities left and right. Let's finish this thought, right? Because going back to Narvaez, she's not wrong in a way. They can't see what's possible. What makes Narvaez somewhat right, I'm reading this directly from my notes, even though her approach is wrong, back to the way it was, right? Who said that? Not maybe verbatim, but Rick wanting to bring it back at the bridge. Bring it back to the way it was. A new normal, kind of like the new normal of before, like where people had civilization and communities. Carl's ideal of we survive, but we also want to bring people in, right? Let's make this thing happen. It's like the next stage of bringing things back, isn't it? So her approach is wrong, right? The prescription's not right. Let's force people to do what we want them to do so that they can be our people. And then we can provide for them, they can provide for us, which is not obviously how it really works. It's the idea, but it's not working. But isn't that Rick, though? Not wholeheartedly and full-throatedly in prescription, but it's the idea that let's bring everything back. Let's bring everybody in. Let's make a civilization. The Charter for Rights and Freedoms was a bit more fleshed out and better. Everybody could work independently, but we can share. We can trade voluntarily, not forcibly, not a federation of some kind, but like a sort of confederation. We exist in silos. We can trade people. We can trade resources, but voluntarily. Yeah, Rick did ruin a lot of lives, but not intentionally. Narvaez, I think she knows what she's doing, in a sense.
I think she's a typical bureaucrat. There is no side vision. It's just tunnel vision straight ahead. She's not bothering to see if any of what she's doing, it doesn't matter, because what she's doing is what the law is. There's no other thing to do.
She's towing the company line.
Right. Which means there's other governors. There's got to be a higher structure than governor, right? It brings me back to my Rick theory.
Watching half of her people get wiped out, the first thing she says is, okay, we got to keep going and go get the methane. What? Are you crazy? We can't go. We've got to get out of here. Like, what are we going to do now? We just lost 3/4 or more of our people that we were going to bring over here because they said, 50 people died? Also, we did lose the lady that we weren't sure about last week who was or was not. So now both of them are.
Charlie Bird.
It was not her.
So we even lost
and
her
now there's no
lookalike.
question because she's dead.
Even if she took the time to think about what was going on, she wouldn't care. We've got to do this, and that's what we're going to do. That annoyed me so badly. I was like, Maggie needs to punch her again because, like, it's just, you just lost almost all of your people, and the first thing you're thinking is, oh, we got to keep going. No, you've got to get out.
But here's the thing. This is like, I've been struggling with this one because imagine you took somebody from the real life that doesn't know anything about zombies, but they do know something about zombies, but casually kind of know things about zombies. This world has zombies. Take somebody from here today. Okay, let's use a softer example. I could survive the zombie apocalypse. No, not you. Not you. But that kind of confidence, I've watched enough zombie shows. I
will just to spite you, Dave.
I live in New Babylon Federation. You're in New Babylon Federation. You're watching the show.
No.
But you are, though, Bridget. You're safe.
But I'm not.
You have heating and cooling and ice cream, Bridget. So you drop that person into a war zone.
And I'm right back to working every day at a job.
That's
your horrible.
job is major of this war and this campaign that you're running. So you're thinking, I've got the full
military track for me.
Exactly.
Interesting choice.
You've got the full weight of New Babylon's authority on your shoulders. You're like, yeah, I could, yeah, they support me.
Yeah, why not? I could do this.
No, you can't. Right, Sharondy? Right, you can't. You've got all these people under you, man.
I've literally never done anything like that. I mean, I have been in management, so don't underestimate me, Dave. Is all I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. But then again, would you have turned back? Maybe not.
I get what she's saying.
I'm good at everything, Bridget.
I understand. It's not even just like, it's not cockiness. It's none of the above. It's get authority. What she's saying. You are going to risk another 50 by leaving and coming back. If we run with our tails tucked now, we're going to lose even more people. We might as well at least try to see what we came here for.
Which is called...
I get the sentiment.
The fallacy of sunk costs. I've already put in half my pot. Might as well waste the whole thing, isn't it?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm a gambler,
but I get
baby.
That.
So
let it ride. And the only reason why I bring this up is to kind of bring you back a little bit more to the center, because we all have that in us. The fallacy of sunk costs is something we all invariably have done. We put this much work into it. How much more could it possibly take? So let's get the job done. Because it's so easy to hate on Narvaez, right, Rachel? Right, exactly. I only say that because of Dasha. That's the only reason why I said it.
We didn't even get to talk about the elevator room.
Okay, yeah.
Dave.
That's a good one. Go ahead. What was the thing that struck you most?
Originally, I didn't know why the door closed like that. I was like, that's weird. and then it like shook and I was like, oh, an elevator. Interesting.
Wasn't it both things? It was like her forcibly closing. You're like, well, what is happening right now? She's being very agreff.
Well, because when she hits the button
aggressively
when she goes, this is your new room. I'm like, that's weird because it's at the end of a hallway. And like, there's no door. That's all I thought was, you put a teenage boy in a room with no door. Okay. Well, you're asking to see something you don't want to see. But
or does she?
That's all I thought.
Or does she?
Well, maybe. Oh, she sat on his bed.
Shaggy. Oh, boy.
Barf.
I thought
Anyway.
it was bad. I thought the hate bang was bad.
I'm gonna Ralph Macchio. So what I thought of,
It actually sounds like an action. Like I'm gonna macho
Ralph
Ralph,
Macchio,
right?
yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
It's
Go
a
ahead.
new version of Otising.
and then they get up to the top and she opens up the doors on the other side, which I was like, oh, okay, cool. Freight elevator, obviously, because they always have the 2-sided doors. And all I could think was, okay, I'm all in.
Mhm.
I'm all in on this idea. Take something that no one would have ever lived in before and make that a bedroom. Why the heck not? You know what? Because I was the kid who watched that episode of Full House. And then when Stephanie gets ejected from her room and she has to live with Michelle and she doesn't want to, and she goes and lives in the bathroom instead. And then what did I do? But I took my little pillow and my blanket into the bathroom to lay in the tub. And that didn't work because it was wet still. I did try. It didn't work out for me.
After Greg Brady moved into the attic, I wanted an attic room so bad.
Immediately, all of a sudden, I'm behind this idea. I'm like, this is right. You're right. Farmers, they burn down their fields so that they can grow crops in a better way. So it adds nutrients to the soil. You're burning everything down essentially to create something new. And why not? This is a new world. It should have new standards, a new system of beliefs. Society should look different. It shouldn't be the same old thing. And really, that's what I want. It's what attracts me to The Walking Dead in the first place is that libertarian ideal of, well, just leave me alone. Let me do what I want. I'm 100% sold. These are my heroes now. Sorry, I've turned. The bad guys are my heroes now. I'm a bad guy.
Rachel's
now.
laughing right now. So you gave the play-by-play.
I am, because, are they the bad guys?
I was just getting ready to say that. Are they the bad guys?
I mean, these other goobers are coming in to
kidnapping
steal
children
their fuel.
and grooming them
It's
is
not
pretty
great.
bad, but this
Yeah,
is
it's
a
not
different
great.
world.
It's not a great
Babylon
look.
is essentially kidnapping children and forcing them to be soldiers.
Right. Well, again,
It's
Yeah.
true. Conscription.
I feel like The Walking Dead
Interesting.
Dead City is brainwashing you in general because you see
Maybe.
you see the
Is it?
foragers and you're like, yeah, that sounds cool. But meanwhile, then they let the little girl die. And part of me was like, maybe that could work. You just got to stitch up the vein or the artery. And
She
It
was
was in the-
was
I know,
bleeding
I know.
out.
but
There
like,
was
compare
no...
that to the Walking Dead universe where you still try.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you cauterize that bad boy and we move on.
Now, I get it. What they're trying to do was express that rather than, this is a great parallel to the Dom herself being alone all this time, pushing through and making it on her own. Well, then this is a community that never has to do anything on their own. They're always together, even in death.
Do you have more data on the stone thing?
it was very
Not the stone.
whispery. Like
Yes,
killing
the
the
Guardians.
Guardians. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
got Guardian vibes.
It was
at the
interesting
end
to
there,
let them
yeah.
join after feeding them the heart. But the feeding of the heart, that's been in many, many, many different cultures. And usually it signifies the passing on of your power.
Like Kali Ma, like
Yeah.
Indiana Jones and the,
Yes.
the Temple of Doom.
But like really.
but like in real life, like not
But
this
like real.
make-believe stuff.
The Aztecs and their sacrifice, but they didn't have to sacrifice her because she was already dead, but they still offered up the heart
Yeah.
to the
That's-
gods, right? Because that's basically what walkers are. They're immortal.
Well, if I kind
Ugh,
of
I don't like that. That's
I
spooky.
would be like, in a way, they're like the Furies or like the playthings of the gods in a sense, aren't they? In a way.
Huh?
Do the subtitles say that it was in Iranian?
So, okay, let me get into that a bit because there is.
Before you launch into all of that, I'm going to say goodnight. All right,
See you
so
on
good night, you
Tuesday,
guys.
and then see you on Friday.
Tuesday. Oh, yeah.
See you. Yeah, see you next
See
Tuesday.
you next Tuesday, and also see
What
you
did you
next.
call me?
Rachel, I'm so glad you were here.
Me too. Thanks, you guys. I felt very heard this episode, and I
Good,
appreciate it.
Let's get to the scene where the foragers are basically chanting for Joan, is the young woman who Herschel
Oh,
meets in the
yeah.
clearing. Her name is Joan.
What's that word? Maudlin? How maudlin?
How about Maudlin? Yeah. And the leader of the foragers is named Roxana.
Yes, which is a beautiful name. I loved the way it was spelled.
Yeah, she seems to be Persian or Iranian. But, well, and based on the song. Joan's not going to make it. Okay, we're all here. It's okay, we're all here, she says to her. They all start chanting. Now, pop quiz hotshot. Do you remember when Luther from the last season started humming at the dinner table?
Oh, yeah.
To kind of, before they eat food and drink, it's to mourn the people that we lost along the way, to kind of say that this is how we got here. In doing so, we are home with all of them in
Interesting.
memory. And of course, you do it. You take it to this scene, and I'm not sure if that was this third episode. I should have checked. Actually, I did write it down. It is season 1, episode 3. Same energy as the first season. Same episode number. Okay, cool. We're on the same page. Let me read the note I left from that season because I thought it was pretty eye-opening. The episode's called People Are a Resource. Also has some tie-in here. Before eating like Maggie, the group pays tribute to those who they've lost to remind them that because of them, they are still here. Luther's humming is interweaved with the Croats' Doma Smo. They flip back and forth between the Croat.
That's right.
We are home is Doma Smo. People are a resource with the tribespeople means family, who we have in this world and who we remember who've passed. Interesting that we're all here because even in death, as Joan has passed or is in passing, it's okay. We're here. We're here with you when you go. You don't have to face it alone, the Dhamma. You can go. It's okay to go. Let me go to the exact song she starts singing while they're chanting. The song is called Tubio, also an old blended with the new because it was a Persian song, Persian folk song from the mountains of Iran. It was inspired or blended in with the idea of Gregorian chants. Tubio means really, come sit by me. But the full line, at least that she's singing, is come sit by me. Let me tell you, the grief about your absence has made me thinner than your hair. I actually made me a little emotional reading that because it's not just about your loss, the person you are losing.
It's also the passage of time.
Bridget, yes, exactly. But it makes me older. It makes me feel older. And also, it's almost nostalgia that you have to move on. It makes me miss you, the mountains of, I forget what it was called, but this specific region where this song comes from in the mountains of Iran, because this was written from somewhere else.
Okay.
It's like nostalgia for what was, the idea we can go back, but here we are now in the present grieving. It's not necessarily a grief song, but it's a song about missing something.
For this season. So obviously, I mean, everything that they do is intentional, but this is like clearly very intentional.
Wow. So when I started looking this up, I was like, damn, this writing is so good. Now, I
can't wait for Mikey to listen to this and be like,
you guys are way off. We just picked a random Iranian song.
They've done it again.
Meanwhile, he's not directing this episode, but he's still executive producer. And isn't that interesting too? Because their mourning ritual is to remove the heart. The thing that you claim is the thing that aches for something before. My heart hurts. My heart is broken. They're wailing.
Well, it's to say that your identity is your heart, which is why it's this concept of your power or your spirit moving on to another
plane of existence.
They remove it from the shell that will exist of you.
Right, because you're no longer here, I guess, is the thing.
Yeah.
So you transition from that to the Croat immediately after. Again, there's so much great transitioning that ties in together between the scenes. Croat is listening to Zemlji ko materi resi. I don't know what it means, but it's a Croatian song by Nokas Chemo, right? Okay. It also represents a nostalgia for a time that once was and what we do after loss and during the struggle.
Okay.
I'm going to go through the lyrics really quickly. Basically, we'll gather tonight, my friends, and the thorns and flowers from our garden, 1,000 sons scattered scoundrels, and thousands of daughters, thunderbolts and rocks. Tonight we will tell the earth as a mother. We carry our hearts in a casket from grapes, right? Heart in caskets. So cool imagery. Croatian. Ooh, who knew? From each vine, rosy blood will flow, and the letters will go by themselves on the vine. I translated the lyrics because I couldn't find them like a meaningfully translated format, but you get the imagery. It's like we put our blood into our works. We put our hearts into our works. Even through the suffering, even through the rocks and the walls and the thunderbolts, right? Now, the chorus is, grow the earth, break the rock, break the wall, knock on the mother's heart. Yeah, knocking on the heart with the stone. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
The sea roars a salty tear, permanent. I don't know. I guess it's literally permanent. Nina Nana, permanent Nina Nana. Singing, I don't know. Anyway. The laborers are getting up and they're working. Your shore is made of, in this, I think he's talking about Croatia. Your shore is made of sunny miles. The tide will rise to the earth's shoulders. Sons and daughters, fishermen, laborers, and those dear ones who are no longer here, we will bring a wreath to throw into the sea. Again, this is transitions right after this burial thing. You provide us with these sunny days, but you also provide us, things happen. As we labor and we will reap the fruits of our labor, the thing that we put our blood and heart in, we will remember the people who fell. We'll bring a wreath to throw into the sea. I thought that's really great. This is what the Croat is listening to in the car just after that scene.
Not even just that, but singing along with quite emphatically.
Oh yeah, with his eyes closed.
Yeah, it reminds me of this is unrelated, but it reminds me of an episode of The Office where Dwight is listening to REM. Everybody hurts. By himself in his car, and he's sitting like that with his eyes closed and it's just blaring so everybody can hear it. And they're like, "Are you okay?"
He thinks he's having a private moment. That's actually kind of funny if you think about it.
That's what it reminds me of.
But you know what? Why wouldn't he think he's by him? It's the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's going to listen? Who's going to hear it?
Well, it's interesting that that's the song choice because there's some imagery in the song that's repeated by the actual imagery in the TV show, which is interesting.
That's
that
amazing.
These concepts of vines like growing in to your heart, essentially.
Comparing the basket of grapes and the grapevines.
The walkers
in the park too.
Are in
literally.
The park. So there's the one in the tree that's got vines all growing through it. But then if you consider the tunnel, which is the scene that's happening concurrently, essentially to this scene. In the Croats,
just
like
prior,
timeline,
right,
just
right.
prior.
Yeah, I get you.
So just interesting that imagery is then repeated in the park.
I know I pronounced
almost like The Last of Us too, where everybody's connected with vines.
Why don't we talk about Negan speaking to the Croat in the car? All this builds up to this moment where
I assume that the Croat knows.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask actually.
Yeah,
does the Croat know that he?
I think
killed Waylon?
Does know that he killed Waylon. This is how Negan would have behaved in the old times. Yeah, I don't like this guy. I don't want him following me around. I didn't like it because the scene felt really like wormy. He was always so much more confrontational. So this seemed like wormy to me. But at the root of him, this is who he is, really.
Yeah, I agree. And I think in a way, there's a good mirror immediately between the Croat and Negan. I think the Croat's thinking, let's assume that he knows that he killed Waylon just because he doesn't trust him, whatever. He says it in the car. Let's say he killed him just because. Okay, what does that mean? The Croat sees this as a win because he's like, oh, the old Negan is back. He wouldn't let anybody talk down to him or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Let's say he doesn't know. He sees the blood on his hands and he's assuming, oh, yeah, maybe what he says is true. And I did literally just say, you just need a little blood on your hands to get the old Negan juices flowing.
Well, he had also just had the conversation with him in the car on the way there to say, I understand why you didn't shoot. I know that kids is where you draw the line. So for him to come back and be like, oh, accidents happen, it's almost as though the crowd is saying like, I still get it. I know that kids is where you draw the line. Don't worry. I will take care of it. Because that's what he says. I'll take care of it. And then Waylon's like, yeah, I'll take care of it or whatever. But it's like, really, the crow I was trying to say like, don't worry. I will do it for you. I will take on that burden for you. Whereas Waylon is just like being a jerk.
Right. I like that. So let me just explain what you just said because I love it. You're literally saying from our perspective, gross. If you look at the Croat and Waylon ostensibly, you're thinking, oh God, he's willing to kill kids. Ugh, gross. But if you're not thinking like the Croat, he's just saying, I know you have a soft spot for kids. I will take care of that for you. Like as if it's an expression of love and reverence.
Yeah,
I will
100%.
be that for you.
Yeah,
I will do
that's
it for
what
you.
he's saying. But Waylon Waylon,
he loves killing kids.
He's
obviously.
not a good guy.
We see him.
He's not a good guy. He's not a good guy. So he interjects himself into it because he doesn't like Negan.
No, he's
so
like, I want to kill kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you get all the fun, Croat?
Yeah. Whereas the Croat's trying to have like a serious conversation. Waylon's just there for the ride.
Yeah, well, for the experience, an immersive experience.
Yeah. I don't know if that's true or not. It's kind of what I got from it. I'm going to go with that personally.
Yeah, I love that. I love that we went down that road.
I am very excited for the prospect of zoo animals loose in Central Park eating people. In the Walking Dead universe, have we ever had a situation where wild animals attacked people and that was the danger? I could not remember any.
Just Shiva.
But she was wild animal, but she was still...
Well, she was a zoo animal.
Right. But she wasn't like a feral animal out there just killing people. She was not under the control. She allowed herself to be under the control of Ezekiel.
Yeah, there's a relationship, whereas
she wasn't just a wild tiger that was out there getting
her.
people. I was hoping we were going to see the monkeys. I thought that would be really fun. But I am super excited. I am super excited to see a lion or whatever that was going on.
Monkeys are terrifying.
Monkeys are horrible. I've been to Thailand, and it's 20 plus years. Whew. And one of the things they say is they're not cute. If they could, and if you let them, they would murder you. And at the
Yep.
very least, they will steal your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I just think of that one time that lady gave, these are not monkeys, obviously. She gave an orangutan half a Xanax or something because it had
What?
anxiety, but it was like human Xanax, and it had a really bad reaction and it ripped a woman's face off.
Yeah.
She lived. She's given interviews. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
I feel so sad that happened to her.
Even like capuchin monkeys, which are what they use.
Aren't those helper monkeys?
Right, but they're only good for a few years, because after that they become males. Females are okay, but the males after like 3
Become
years,
restless?
they get really aggressive.
Right.
Yeah.
But going back to your question, the huge roar in the distance that Maggie hears shortly after the gunshot, basically,
Mhm.
what is that? And I can tell you what
lion
I
or
think it
tiger?
is. Well, you would know what it is if you saw the trailer for the season, the one that came right before.
I don't
The
know.
season
finale.
and I
Yeah.
won't. For those who know, they've teased this at the end of the last episode, right? As they were getting into the park. And they're also teasing it here. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what it is.
Throughout the Walking Dead universe, they've never addressed, wouldn't there be like an upsurge in certain animals like bears and things like that?
Oh, if only you had been there for all of our coverage on that one show, Earth Abides, because man, oh man, did we talk a lot about that.
Well, as a matter of fact, we talked about it in season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead and season 9 of The Walking Dead. So go back to those episodes because we learn a lot about the different migratory patterns. First of all, we know about the alligator that haunted that flooded river that Strand and
Mm.
Dory
Oh
were
yeah, I
trapped
forgot
in.
about the alligator
We also talked about it in our coverage of Tales
because of the
doctor episode.
Dr. Anthony Edwards.
Everett.
Dr. Everett. Well, and that was even 30 years later, so there was an even more wild migratory patterns. But we've learned a lot about the grackle and predatory birds and what they do and how their patterns change and how they're not afraid of people even alone. This is a new behavior. And also we find out about it in The Walking Dead too. The packs of wild dogs that went after Negan in, I forget which season it is, 7?
9. Judith.
Was it 9?
I think it was 9 with Judith.
Maybe as well too. You get the idea. Deer will forage and they do this in real life too. Deer are invasive and dumb, but they'll be fruitful and multiply and threaten residential populations even today.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you a story that just happened on Thursday. This has to do with deer. I was leaving my Bible study group and I was hanging a left out of their neighborhood, and there was a car there that was sitting there. It had its hazards on, and a guy was out the passenger door, standing up on his phone. And I was like, oh, something happened. They must have had a fender bender. I see that the front headlight on the driver's side is all pushed in and damaged. And there's a little old lady who literally I can hardly see over the steering wheel. So she's this tiny little old lady. She was driving and I was like, oh gosh, I wonder what happened. And I turned the corner. There's no other car. So I'm like, that's weird. I turn the corner. I look over. The entire side of her car is covered in blood from the corner all the way back to the trunk almost.
Oh, so she
It's just
sideswiped it.
covered in blood. And I was like,
This
oh
poor
my
old
God,
woman.
what is happening? And I drive a little bit down the road. There's blood all over the road. And there is a deer literally split in half.
Oh,
She must have been
horizontally
tearing
or
down that road.
lengthwise, because
Horizontally, literally down the gut, down the belly.
Okay. Wow, that sucks.
My uncle was driving home from work a few weeks ago, and a deer jumped over. He was driving. The deer jumped over the back of his car and hit the front of his car.
Oh my God.
And he had to get his radiator and stuff replaced. It mashed in the front of his car. But it jumped from behind the car over the front of the car. It wasn't like it came
Jesus.
from the side or anything. Yeah.
Or even from the front.
Yeah.
It just came from the
Came
back.
from the back and jumped over in his car.
They are dumb. They're real
Proving
dumb.
my point exactly. Now imagine them in the zombie apocalypse. It makes perfect sense that CGI deer visited the theme park in season 9 or season 8 of The Walking Dead. Because also
It makes sense that they look
it
so
was
bad because that's how
computerized.
bad they look because they're so dumb.
Mutated deer. They mutated without humans around to keep them in check.
Right. They turned cybernetic and also
They got
the
really
shading was
blurry.
off.
They look like potatoes.
Little grainy.
That's what happens because they're so stupid.
Anyway, moving along.
You know what? It would have been so much more fun if they'd made animals turn into zombies. I'm sorry.
I thought that's where you're kind of heading to. With
Yeah.
That's
the-
horrifying.
Between
I don't
the
like
wildness
that.
and I really don't know, guys. I don't know. Especially if you think about monkeys and primates and how they're very close
Gosh.
to our DNA.
Like 96.4% the same as
Yeah.
I was
chimps.
hoping that in the park there was going to be smart walkers.
Well, I was hoping too, so I don't know. Well, and also, we never really got a definitive answer on the battle biters situation, even though we kind of made something up.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there's something different about these walkers.
It's like, what's going on with the smart walkers, dude? Why'd you incorporated them and now we don't see them again?
Maybe something happened. I don't know. Because Narvaez says, do what we always do, peel off their numbers. When she's talking about what they plan on doing, peel off their numbers, divide the opposition, and immediately...
They're horribly intentional. They're intentionally horrible is what I meant to say.
They're horribly intentional and intentionally
It
horrible.
works both ways.
So yeah, they're on their way into the park, right? They're getting through it. And Narvaez says, we'll do what we always do with the people in New York. We'll find people that we can make treaties with and blah, 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 and peel off the opposition, right?
Your treaty doesn't mean ass, dude.
Regardless of that, the scene immediately afterwards is what? They get further into the park, and what happens? Their numbers are getting peeled off.
Oh, yeah, they are having
the new
it
Babylon
happen.
soldiers going down left and right.
Oh, yeah, and the Croat is making deals with other people.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Huh.
Well, monkey see, monkey do. We
There you
talked
go.
about monkeys before. Going back to the room. Okay, 1st of all, you can have a critique about it but you can also explain it. What is in the room? Herschel's room, the elevator.
A lot of stuff. There's just a lot of stuff in there.
Would you say?
But specifically a giant sculpture in the corner.
Right,
Yeah.
the mask.
By
Okay.
Alistair. One,
Dimitri Alistat. Yeah.
what is the weight of that statue? Because there are weight limits.
Well, there was a
on
heavy object on
elevators.
the other side. So
But-
I'm kidding.
but
no idea.
thankfully, this is a freight elevator.
It's
so
bolted
we don't
into
have
the
to worry
frame,
about it.
actually. Doesn't exist. It's not a real thing.
It's not?
The
Okay.
sculptor is not real.
Okay, I was wondering if it was real or not. It looked very pandemic doctory to me.
Right?
Mhm.
Okay. And this is also from the early part of the century, right? Well, what was in the early part of the century?
Yeah, it
Spanish
looked
flu?
very, very pandemic doctor to me.
The medieval
You know, the
doctor.
bird like,
Yeah.
plague doctor.
Plague
Plague
Got the
doctor.
big
That's what I'm trying to
potpourri
say.
nose
Plague
mask,
doctor.
right? It's the whole point
Yeah.
was they had potpourri at the end of the nose so that you can breathe.
Correct.
Nice sense. Sculpture aside, you can say a lot about the sculpture, what it means, and I like that. I love that for you, but it doesn't exist. Even though it has
So
one
we'll
of
say
those.
nothing.
Well, even though it has that authentic looking, and isn't that everything authentic looking plaque that was obviously taken from a museum, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
interesting.
but it wasn't because it's not real.
Yeah, but tricked us, right? In a way. So of course it would trick Herschel, but it says something.
Oh, you're saying she made this up? I thought it just existed in their world because their world is not our world.
Well, no. I'm saying you could say both things. You can say
Okay.
she tricked us as the audience. She tricked Herschel. Fine, but you could also say, well, isn't the show tricking us in a way too? Trying to paint a picture for us about what is in the room. But what is in the room?
Well, it's just a weird choice to use an actual piece of art at the beginning of the season and then a fake piece of art now.
With the Goya painting?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, which is just the episode prior. Again, yeah, that's really interesting. But the larger commentary is what's in the room is history. What was.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't
Yeah.
that interesting that we're using content? Now, to explain it, though, I think what she's saying is, she says, I can't unknow what I know. That's just how that works. The
Mhm.
broken glass, I can't unsee what I've seen, unexperience what I've experienced. But here is more context that you can draw upon to create something new, which is fair because is Herschel trained as an artist? He kind of just picked, he's naturally talented, I guess, because who did he learn to draw from? Isn't that with everything? You want to hone your craft so that you can have a, first of all, structural basis for your ideals. Because it's not like, because you remember Frank Gehry, the guy who created is it Frank Gehry? He created
Not the Guggenheim.
the Guggenheim. Yes, thank you. And
Yes,
he
I
was a
believe so.
modern architecture person. But the thing about Frank Gehry was that some of his, and I'll tell you, not even anecdotal, factual evidence. The Guggenheim constantly leaks.
Yeah.
Because
He's known for creating really cool stuff that doesn't really work all that practically.
yeah, I mean, he does his best, but at the same time, there's just
Well, you're creating wild looking things.
that have no structural supports in some places, have to be re-engineered because, whatever. This is her way of saying, learn the basics, learn the structural part of it. Here's some stuff that's surrounding you that gives you context of the world at large.
Well, because
And then
you can learn from the past. We can't just ignore it completely.
Right. When she kind of says that. But at the same time, we're going to erase history by leveraging it. And when you create this new world, nobody else has to learn about it. But that's faulty, right? If you think about it,
Well, you'll still be creating new history that they will learn about. So
Exactly.
it doesn't work. It's a fallacy.
I had this thought, this wild thought this week before I even watched this episode. I was driving into work and I was just thinking about, and I was throwing out the compost at the same time, right? I was taking it down, go into my car, throw out the compost. And I just had this wild thought about dirt itself and how this profound idea that dirt, or the accumulation of dirt on the earth, is broken down particles of everything that ever was living and non-living, and how we are living on what was, and how everything that came before us is an accumulation of the people who have gone before us. All the knowledge, all the trees, all the nutrients, all the soil, everything. And that's in the dirt. And how grateful we have to be in a way that they, with their bodies, their own human bodies, left this for us to do the same eventually. But this weird, profound thought of how grateful I am. Because I think about mortality all the time and how, we have this podcast, we want it to be great and all that stuff. But then, sometimes you have to kind of just take a step back and realize that, well, obviously there's more to life than podcasting, and there's more to life than your marriage and the fun things you like to do and all that stuff. And you should do all those things. But I'm just thinking that the fact that we can have this life that we live now, that's inarguably better than it was ever in human history, good and bad people had to lay themselves down on the dirt to make more dirt. The thing that we used to grow the food, to make the air clean and all that stuff. And when you take it back to this episode, isn't that the room? Isn't that Herschel's dirt in a sense? The thing which he'll plant his ideas from which it will grow. So this is my explaining away of what the Dhamma does. This is your dirt. You will plant your ideas in here for the thing that once was, to allow it to flourish. So it's not directly erasing the past, but realizing it's just dirt. Now it's gone. It now is the nutrients for you to flourish. Oh, how Herschel doesn't know how to use a gun. Doesn't matter. Who cares?
It doesn't matter. Again, that would be like a fairly obvious thing, I would think. But
I'm a little disappointed in Maggie's lack of teaching him, which is something I have railed about in the main show.
Firearms?
Children need to be taught how to defend themselves,
Well, I think she's taught him how to use everything else, but it's not a renewable resource anymore. So it doesn't make much sense to teach it to him.
Except they're still around,
and
so you should know how to use one just for your own knowledge.
Well, I wouldn't be ready to actually fire one you randomly find either, because if you think about it, that's part of the reason why people get into trouble, is because they're not well maintained. Dirt accumulates into the chamber, and if you fire one off, it'll throw sparks too. So there's like a lot of things that go into firearms.
Wasn't that Ginny's gun?
No, so here's the thing.
Okay.
That's Nervaez's gun that Ginny nicked from the last episode. And you even saw a scene where Nervaez was cleaning the gun. I don't know about the internals, but she was taking well care of it, which kind of throws...
It's a beautiful gun.
Yeah, but the whole purpose of that is to say, when he holds it in his hand, it's even flashing in the sun or something. But the idea is that it's to plant the seed in your head that this is not practical, technically, if you think about it. I mean, you have to well maintain it. You have to have people that make the bullets to do the things. Like this is New Babylon Federation all over the place. They have specialty. They live in a life where you can have specialty. Something I say is the kickstart. The only way you can have civilization is specialization. I can see why Maggie wouldn't. It's not practical. I mean, isn't that the thing we always rail for, is that it's not really practical to teach somebody in firearms because it's not readily available. So teach them on Aikido and not Aikido. Technically, you should teach them in as a jujitsu, let's say, or bow staff use, throwing knives. Right? We saw that. That's a bit more practical.
Krav Maga.
Kick them in the nuts.
Tickle them
in the pit. Dave, I know you'll remember this when Dr. Santos tells Whitaker she knows Krav Maga, and he goes, "I don't know who that is, but good for him."
That's cute.
It's like, I know the guy. Okay, here's a little tiny nugget. Joan, like Victor in the last episode, is the same age as him. I did the math.
Cheap death, Dave.
Cheap death,
cheap death.
But they're also kind of evoking the same vibe. Victor was around 4th grade, 10 years old. Let's say we kind of called it on that. And we find out from my interview with Logan Schmucker that he's 29 years old. It's playful. They're around the same age group when the apocalypse happens. Joan dies, Victor dies on the show.
You're killing your future.
Yeah. You're killing your future in the pursuit of the present. Like, who is it going to be for if they keep dying like this?
Yeah, exactly. If you keep killing them.
Whether inadvertently or
Wait, I can't talk. That's it. That's it. End it.
Inadvertently.
End it. Burn it down.
Vertently.
Dave.
Herschel has this heart-to-heart with Maggie. One thing I noticed about that heart-to-heart, he says the thing out loud. He admits that he lied to her in his own forward-thinking way, whatever, in the process of explaining himself, that he does know this woman. Everyone sees this terrifying city. I don't see it like that. It's been this place that's been through so much, broken, ignored, and abandoned. I'm talking about me, audience. An island no one came to save. But it's over now, and it could be something new. Free from that pain and reinvent itself. Make it whatever we want it to be. We can make it whatever we want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, first of all, before we get into what you thought about that, because you can have thoughts, I've never heard Logan Kim sound more like, okay, I keep saying Glenn, but what is the actor? Stephen Yeun, than these lines in particular. He sounds exactly like Stephen Yeun. Intonation, sound of voice, everything. Listen to it again, you'll hear it. Saying all of it out loud.
I actually thought maybe it could have applied to Maggie too.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't applying it to himself. He was applying it to his mom.
Yeah. Funnel your rage into something productive instead of what you're doing.
It's what I've always wanted for you.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that
because
at
I
all.
imagine that hurts him to know that his mom can't move past this, that he essentially feels like he's not enough for her. Like, how hurtful is that? Not only for him, but he must feel that radiates off of her, this loss. And he's the only connection that she still has to Glenn. And all she can worry about is just keeping him alive. She doesn't matter if he's good or bad or interesting or boring or anything, really, as long as he's alive. And couldn't they be doing something else? Couldn't they be working towards something else? Couldn't they do that together? I don't know.
No,
I felt the same way. I felt the same way, Sharon. That's really what I thought of, was like, maybe this is about Maggie and him making a final plea, because he's made this plea before. This plea has come up a couple times now. This plea to let this go and move on and be free of it. You've said that you are, but you're not. It's so clear that you're not.
Similar to what I was saying about him finding Negan in the clear, or Negan finding him in the clearing and near the fountain and everything. With, by the way, a dirty water dog stand in the background. That's what I mentioned that. He twists his face up and shoots Negan almost immediately, or tries to, whatever. Isn't that the same thing? He's capitulating. It's like, I'm supposed to hate Negan. Is it a son's duty to save his mother? No, but sometimes people who have mothers who need saving will do their best to do that.
Or if I kill Negan, maybe it will finally heal her.
Will it be over?
Same
then?
thing, same energy.
Yeah. Will it finally be over?
But it's not enough, right? It's not enough to kill Negan. I used to think about my own mother. Is like, will it be enough if I do everything she says? No, there'll always be something else. But I need to give her something to look forward to, right? It's the idea of, I can kill Negan, but that won't be it. Maggie has suffered, she's probably told Herschel, all these losses. We should be able to understand where Maggie's coming from, given the fact that we saw all her family members and her husband die. But it's that one extra step of Herschel saying, I'm going to get you out of this, so I'm going to build this new world for you to enjoy. That's really cool. I like that insight. And something I hadn't considered before, because when I saw it, I thought the same feeling that she got in the last episode at the end, when she realized the blue cloth was Herschel's doing. I've lost my son forever.
There's some of that in there too. I think there's fear of her thinking, this is it. The city does have a pull on him, a pull that's going to be permanent. I don't think those things can't coexist.
Isn't that in a way a lot like Rick deciding to blow up the bridge to save everyone else? Isn't that the same?
Yeah.
Like, is it worth this if it means everybody dies, right? The zombies crossing the bridge and everybody is a threat. Isn't that the same thing?
Is it worth killing him if you lose me?
And Herschel believes that the sacrifice is enough. The sacrifices that the Dama is speaking of is enough to save Maggie, right? It's not just about him and his vision, his role in the universe, but him trying to pull Maggie into this world he wants to create for her. Huh.
I don't know if that's the route it's going to go. It could go.
It's like he has to blow up the bricks in New Babylon in order for her to have a future personally. It's all for her. And so it
doesn't have to be that. It could be just him being a teenager. But
I'm eager to see the next episode, because if you like what you heard, head on over to ratethispodcast.com/squawking dead, 5 stars and a hideous statue is all we need to know that you love us. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you didn't like. Tell us what you think we might have missed. I know we missed a lot. It's okay, everybody. But tell us after every single episode. And if you really like what you've heard, tip us and get the unedited version of this episode for you to enjoy, including my pre-squawk insights for 30 days. You'll get forever access to our Discord just from a tip. take your support further. For as little as $4 a month in the Walkers tier, you can get more access to our Discord, forever access to our free stuff in our Ko-fi shop, our insights of unedited, uncut, including the interview we just did with Logan Schmucker last Friday. In full, almost 2 hours worth of content that will undoubtedly be slimmed down to less than an hour. Seriously.
Classic Dave.
Classic me. If you happen to join the Whisperers, Survivors, and Great tier, you will get a free classic t-shirt upon signing up. Join the Survivors and Great tier. You can show up in these episodes alongside us, lending us your thoughts with us on screen with your camera mic, my mouth, face, head. And if you happen to join the Great tier, the Greatest Ish tier, you can get access to our core channel, which is where we have our behind the scenes discussions, any conversation that we have in the studio that's not in episode or whatever. You will be along for the ride. We'll invite you to that chat. We'll make sure you'll be available for it because you're a junior producer. You can tell us how we can shape the course of the show. I've been your host, David Cameo, and I was joined by Rachel Burt,
Lazy Gardner,
and Bridget. You can find me at ko-fi.com/punkybrewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER.
I really cannot wait for the next episode. This episode gave us a lot of front-loaded knowledge for us to kind of go full throttle. It sounds like we'll meet Bruegel a little bit more in the next episode if history has told us anything, and maybe even some zoo animals. So I'll leave it right there. But one little thing I recommend you do before or right after you listen to this episode, check out the Episoder Insider, in which Eli Journet tells us how Logan Kim was found for the show and why they chose him and some of the scenes that he did on the sides and why the sides ended up making it to the show. Because in the sides, he was knife throwing. Logan Kim bought a set of throwing knives to practice. And season 1, there was no knife throwing. So they included it in the second season. Kind of cool story. Let them tell it to you. It's cute. You get to see some behind the scenes footage of the sides. So it's kind of cool. And a whole bunch of other insights that we didn't talk about because it's in there, probably. So take care, everybody. We'll see you real soon. And remember that we are Squawking Dead. Bye.
See ya.
Bye. You know what that statue looked like? Something Delia Dietz would have made.
In Beetlejuice.
Oh, yeah, it definitely did. It definitely did.
Oh, Catherine O'Hara.
I love
The
Catherine
gift that
O'Hara.
keeps giving. Well, thank you so much for making it to the end of yet another episode of Squawking Dead. This one, The Walking Dead Dead City's third episode of its second season, titled, Why Did the Mainlanders Cross the River? And why did you come across this podcast? I wonder. I really do hope you're enjoying it, and I want to tell you a little bit more about the folks in our memberships who are enjoying it so much they decided to join a membership. It's a little perk that they receive in gratitude for their patronage. Starting with the Great M tier, we have at RealRyanGM on Instagram and X. Moving on to our Whispers tier, we have at Kim.Rally #1 on Facebook, Skylar Rose PW on Instagram and X, and that's it. They're peeling off just like New Babylon is peeling off their numbers in Manhattan. So we could use a couple more alliances to keep this podcast going. It's getting really dark out here. Please don't make this the fallacy of sunk costs. And as I mentioned earlier in the episode, we do have merch in the merch store. You can get a Squawking Dead City logo or art design t-shirt. I thought this conversation was very fruitful. I thought we got to dig into a lot more of the characters' motivations, where they're coming from, where they're going. And even though it felt like we can go very far in terms of logistics or even the plot, I think having this knowledge and human exploration actually helps us when the story starts moving forward, perhaps even swiftly. In fact, I was even thinking over the course of this week since we recorded this episode that the Dama herself may not have lost a child. Sometimes I think of insights between the time we record and when the episode gets published, since it takes a couple days for these to come out for all the editing. I happen to think that maybe the Dama, because of a child, she lost her career, and she refers to it as stolen because she blames the child for losing her career. Something to chew on. And sometimes you do get a little bit extra at the end of every episode, so I hope you're listening all the way to the very end. And for those who know and for those who do, first of all, I salute you. And second of all, remember that we are Squawking Dead.